this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. So thanks for joining me, everyone, on this episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast. My guest today is Colonel Schmiegel. And a little background on how I heard about Kevin. I had interviewed Joseph Carr for my podcast a few months ago. And at that point, I had never heard about Operation Gratitude. I had heard about Josh Wines, which is how I heard about Joseph Carr, but I didn't know about that organization. And Kevin, I don't know if you know this, but gratitude is one of the topics that I speak about in my workshops. There's 8 or 9 of them topics, and gratitude is one of my favorite ones to speak about in corporate workshops. And so when Joseph said, "Oh, I'm part of this Operation Gratitude, I use my time. It's a great organization," and I'm like, "Tell me more about that." And then I went online, learned a little bit more about it, saw you and your name, and then now I'm getting the weekly newsletters and updates. And then I actually decided to have a donation drive. This was in November. I'm like, "This is perfect time. I'll do it for Christmas." And then it was perfect. And then I got sick for a couple of weeks, and it was just one of those things where I couldn't pull it off with enough time left over. So I actually reached out to some of the local schools that my kids went to when they were younger to say, "Can you guys send some letters to the troops and first responders and thank them for, can we at least do this?" And so I got a bunch of those, and I sent those off instead of the donation drive. But I'm committed to do that this year. And it's such an easy thing to do with the letters and stuff. So that's how it all started for me. It was in late November. So here we are in January now of 2020. And I reached out to you and thought I'd love to hear your story and how you created this awesome organization called Operation Gratitude, and how you started off in your journey to this, how you got there. I know you were in the military for 20 years. So tell us about how you came to be where you are now, the CEO of this awesome organization.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. It's really wonderful to be with you. I follow your podcast, and you're doing really great work.
Thank you.
I think I'm in this incredible position as the CEO of the largest nonprofit in the country for hands-on volunteerism in support of military veterans and first responders, and a true grassroots movement that started on someone's living room table 17 years ago. And I became the CEO a couple of years ago when our founder, Carolyn Blashik, became a grandma. So it's evidence when we talk to people like you that we do have 1 million volunteers across the country last year alone who participated in 10,000 service projects like the one you organized. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell your listeners about how I got to this point in my life. It's really interesting because I am actually the son of a Marine and the very, very, very proud father of a Marine too. So the military is kind of in my blood, but I never, growing up, thought I would become a Marine like my dad. For that matter, I never thought my son would become a Marine either. But when I was growing up, I really loved to write. And I thought from a very early age that I wanted to be a journalist. And I wrote for the school papers, and I actually became the editor of the school paper in high school. And as I got closer to making my decision about which college I wanted to go to, I started thinking about joining the military and serving my country. And my dad never, ever encouraged me to become a Marine, just like I never encouraged my middle son, Carl, to become a Marine. I just happened to start thinking about my father and his own journey. He only served in the Marine Corps for 4 years and never really talked about his service during the 60s. But one thing always held true. I remember my dad as a kid when I was a kid, when my dad would get on the phone and I could see his face light up. And inevitably, that would always be when he was talking to a Marine who he had served with. And as I was getting closer to college and thinking about serving my country myself, I could just remember that about my dad. And that really kind of cemented my decision to go into a small Catholic college called the College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts, and I had an NROTC scholarship. But I would have to say that I was not always certain about my choice. I think it's quite to the contrary. I had doubts along the way about my service. I can remember a time when I was a student at the College of the Holy Cross, and I was a midshipman in the Naval ROTC unit, and I was walking up the hill. The college sits on a hill, and it was one of these typical Worcester days, icy, cold, frozen rain. And my head was down. My black uniform with my white hat was completely soaked through with rain. And there's this legendary priest at Holy Cross named Father LeBrand he used to wear a Stetson and carry a cane. And Father LeBrand's walking down the hill, and he must have seen something in my face or an expression I had made, or could see that I was down. And he said in that Irish brogue, "What's troubling you, my son?" And I can remember looking up and saying to him that I wasn't sure that I had made the right decision to become a Marine and to serve my country. And he thought about it and let me talk and voice those concerns. And, I was seeing lots of people around me having lots of fun doing things that college students do. And he looked at me and he said, "We're all called to serve in different ways." And that was it. And he put his head down, and I could hear his cane tapping along the hill as he went down the hill. And that's kind of been a guidepost for me ever since, because I always think of those words whenever I did have doubts about my service, because I think that's one of the truest things that I've ever heard. And I remember sitting with dozens of Marines throughout my 20-year career and talking to them about their own doubts to serve their nation and the challenges that they were having as deployed service members away from their families for the very first time. So even in my career now, I can still hear the words of Father LeBrand kind of ring true.
I just have to stop there for 1 second, because it's two things that you said really resonated with me. This priest saying this to you is, we're all called to serve in different ways. The fact that, how many words is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 words. And you never know when one sentence or even just 2 words is going to resonate with someone, or just be that thing that that sticks with them and they carry on. And you probably ended up teaching your kids the same thing, or said it to them along the way, and all those people in your career along the way. It's crazy that you just never know if you're getting through to someone or what it's going to mean to them. And maybe you didn't even speak to him after that. Maybe you didn't tell him. Maybe you did. But the bottom line is it meant something to you. And then it was help guide you through the rest of everything you were doing, which is crazy.
And it's actually come full circle now in my role as a nonprofit leader. When I transitioned from the Marine Corps, I thought I wanted to pursue a job in the private sector and, make more money and settle down with my family a little more, not having them move so much and not having to deploy so much. And I was the chief of staff at one of the world's largest business federation, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I did that job for a couple years. And at the end of a job like that, you're typically asked what you want to do next inside an organization. And I used that as an opportunity to start a nonprofit and really found my way back to service. And that nonprofit was called Hiring Our Heroes, which is the largest nonprofit in the country for employment of veterans and military spouses. And an incredible job, an incredible passion of mine to help young people who are transitioning out of the military find jobs in the private sector, and really something that changed my life, but was an indicator to me that that's what I was called to do, because there were times along that road as a nonprofit leader where I worked 90, 100 hours a week, building a program from nothing. And I can remember feeling exhausted and tired, and inevitably at that moment, there would be something that would happen that would remind me that I was called to serve in that way. And I can remember a hiring event, a career fair that we had for veterans in Chicago. And it was the first one that we did. and it was the largest of its kind. 120 employers, 1,200 veterans. And that day, a young Marine, 23 years old, walked up to me and said, "Sir, you changed my life today. I got a job."
Oh my gosh,
and
that's the best.
Yeah. And I can remember, I can remember like it was yesterday, going to the corner of the ballroom, right? And literally weeping with pride, right? And those are the moments you have. And it's interesting too, because I did that job for about 2 3/4 years. And again, it's exhausting, and you kind of take stock and you want to spend more time with your family. And I started to do just a standard 9-to-5 job where, again, I was in the private sector. I was probably making more money. I was working less hours. And one day I woke up and I said, what am I doing? What is my sense of purpose? What truly makes me happy? And that's serving other people. And I was fortunate at the time. There was a search firm. They were looking for a president of a smaller nonprofit called Thanks USA, which provides need-based post-secondary scholarships for military spouses and military children. And I went into that job and transformed the organization, where the scholarships that companies were giving to the nonprofit then became pathways to employment for military families. And they were actually getting scholarships in disciplines where they would be directed into the companies as interns. And if they did a good job, subsequently, they would be hired as employees. So an amazing job.
An extension of what you started at that other foundation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, there were times along the way where I doubted my decision to do that too. And about 18 months into that job, I agreed to do a phone call with the founder of Operation Gratitude. And what was supposed to be a 30-minute Skype call turned into close to 2 hours. And one of those conversations you have once in a lifetime with someone who you connect with in a way that you never thought possible. Mm-hmm. And about 5 minutes after the phone call, I accepted the job and started in December of 2017, and really have never looked back. I mean, I've had my moments even in this role where I'm working 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week, and our model is really simple, right? We bring together grateful Americans with their military veterans and first responder heroes through hands-on volunteerism, acts of gratitude, and meaningful engagements in communities across the country. And it's exhausting work, but it's like you have those days where you wake up and you think, I can't do this anymore. And inevitably, it's that same moment when Father LeBrand is walking down the hill, or that Marine walks up to you at a hiring event. In this role, inevitably, in that moment, I'll wake up, I'll grab a cup of coffee, and I'll think, oh, what am I doing? How can I do this? And I'll get an email from a young sailor, a young soldier, a young Marine who said, I got a care package from Operation Gratitude today, and I was feeling really low, and it changed my life. And I know that the decision I made to serve is validated.
Awesome. That's awesome.
It's really,
just
really
when you think
incredible to be a part of.
It's just so cool too how the universe works with, that you're having a doubt and you're wondering, is this something I want to stay committed to? Kind of, can I keep doing this? And then that's when you'll get the email. That's when you'll probably get a phone call or something, a text or a question, and just reminding you why you're doing what you're doing, which we all need, no matter what role we're in, right? Right. What you're doing matters, and that people around, but especially in your role, if it's so many, I would imagine so many plates in the air, so many things going on to coordinate. I know I've done events at past jobs before. Just coordinating one event is a big job, let alone like people all over the country trying to volunteer and send things in and do what you do. And so I can only imagine how exhausting it is, but it keeps you going. All of these people that you're supporting, all of the good work that you get to see later, all of the smiling faces. And I'm sure you're seeing that with the volunteers too, their faces lighting up.
I was just going to say that. So the most amazing thing about Operation Gratitude is not just what we do for the recipients of our care packages and the recipients of gratitude. It's also what we do for our volunteers and the sense of purpose we give them. And, over the last 15 months, I've been at 10 large-scale assembly days outside of California, where I've been to probably 15 to 20 more large-scale assembly days, where literally hundreds of volunteers come together to assemble thousands, tens of thousands of care packages at each one of those events. I've been at more than 50 direct deliveries, hand deliveries of our care packages, where we bring our volunteers now in the communities where they live and work to take a care package, in some cases that they've assembled in that city, and deliver it to an active duty service member, to a veteran, to a wounded hero and caregiver, to a military family, to a first responder, it's unbelievable to be a part of and to see it. And I think for me, the thing that hits me is they're called to serve too. And whatever they decide to do with us, they could write letters, they could host a collection drive, they could be training for marathons and raising money so that we help ship care packages. They can hand knit scarves, they can make paracord survival bracelets to go in our care packages. It's just so many ways they can get involved, and they are called to serve in a different way. And we allow them to do something. We allow them to give back in a way that they feel like they're adding value. And I can tell you story after story after story about the impact that we've made on both sides of a divide that exists between civilians and people who serve. And that divide is not a lack of appreciation. Clearly, if we had 1 million people volunteer to show appreciation, that's not an issue. The divide is a lack of understanding about what it means to serve in our military, or what it means to serve as a police officer, or what it means to serve as a firefighter or an EMT. And we, as an organization, and my role as the CEO, is to build and strengthen communities by bringing together civilians with their military veterans and first responders, so that we can create a more meaningful connection, build understanding, and bridge the divide that exists. So it's much more than a care package. The care package is a vehicle, right? It's a means to an end. And what it allows us to do is engage every American across the country and give them an opportunity to say thank you, but moreover, also bring them together with servicemen and women across the country who are serving and protecting their communities. And the reality is, this is not an issue that we can take lightly. The war is not over. Our nation's longest war continues. We still see 200,000 men and women deploy each year in our military. We see police officers and firefighters dying in the line of duty every day. And we have a recruiting and retention issue in our military and in police forces right now. And if we can inspire young people who see service as an option for them because they're inspired by great leaders in our military and as first responders, then we'll play a part in solving for that problem.
Yeah, it's so far reaching what you're doing. It's not just the, thank you, I appreciate what you're doing for our country and your sacrifices, but it's bridging that divide, connecting people, real people that would never even know what this military person feels like, or this first responder. And I'm guessing they're kids, people coming to volunteer with a whole new generation of people that don't even think about any of these things, right? Because they're too young to be thinking about it. It's awesome. It's awesome work. I can't wait to read more about it and do more for the organization. And I think it's just such a needed thing right now too, because it heals people on another level that's you probably heard this before because of the work you do, but when if anyone's ever feeling sorry for themselves or feels like they don't have enough, they say one of the cures for that is go volunteer, go help someone less fortunate, go see what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, and you're always going to feel better about your situation because you're going to have a new perspective, you're going to realize how lucky you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's no surprise, but people that wanting to reach out and do something for those people that they don't get to thank and talk to, and you hear about in the news, and no matter what side that you're on. There are people out there that wake up every day, just like you were and your son now, sacrificing their time and effort and time with their family and their lives to make sure that we have in this country what we need. It's such a simple thing, but we forget about it because we just don't see it. It's not in front of us all the time. And if it is in front of us, it's in a negative way on the news, and
Sure.
such a better light to be seeing it in,
No, and it's so important. And, the reassurance that we give young people serving in the military and also young people serving as first responders, I can see it in their eyes when I'm in these communities with our volunteers, touching them. And again, it's through a care package, but it means so much more because this simple act of gratitude gives them the reassurance they need to, keep up the work that they're doing. And you bring up a great point. Like I told you my background, right? I'm the son of a Marine and I'm the father of a Marine. The issue we have in our country is more and more people who serve in the military and serve as first responders come from families who served. And that's not uncommon, but it's something we need to address. And the way to address that, the most simple way to address it, is to bring people who don't necessarily come from families with a service background and put them in the same room with people like me who, served in the Marine Corps for 20 years and did really interesting things and fun things and grew as a person, and put them together in rooms with police officers and firefighters who serve and sacrifice every day, and let them tell their stories so that it's not a mystery, right?
Yes.
And I've seen it. I've seen it with young people at our assembly days and at our deliveries for the first time meeting someone who served in the military or served as a police officer. And their eyes light up, and you could see the understanding. I'm in this room and there's this awkward silence where the volunteers are on one side and the first responders are on the other, or the active duty service members and their families on the other. And then you deliver the care packages and they say, thank you for your service. And the next thing you know, you can hear the volume in the room pick up and people laughing, telling stories. And then, an hour later, you're trying to break people apart so the police officers can go on shift, or the service members can get back to work. That's what it's all about, right?
That is, it's awesome. Yeah, that is connecting with people, hearing someone else's stories and seeing it from a different perspective. Would you say, so all of that time in the military though, and your 20-year career there, and you weren't certain, you would have times where you weren't certain, like what was one of the things that got you through 20 years in the military, and then now in this work and working so hard and all these long hours and having time away from your family, besides all of the people that you can see you're making a difference with, what gets you through it? What made you successful in the military? What are some of the traits?
Yeah, I think, the Marine Corps, there is no better employer or organization in the world than the United States Marine Corps to help you be successful. There's just such a rich history and core values and traditions, and just a culture of people who understand what it takes to get things done. And I was exposed to so many great role models and leaders and mentors in the Marine Corps. My path was simple. And if I were to give advice, there's always a few exceptions to that rule. In the Marine Corps, there's so many great leaders and mentors. But I made a decision very early on in my career that I would emulate the leaders and mentors that influenced me in a positive way, and take the lessons I learned from other leaders who didn't, and not follow in their footsteps. And that helped me a lot. And fortunately for me, I was always exposed to really, really, really strong leaders and role models. I think later on in my career, the thing that helped me succeed is I always had a big vision, and I always tried to create a very simple strategy to solve complex problems. When I was at Hiring Our Heroes, is also being in the right place at the right time. I have to admit that too. And having someone like Father LeBrand tap me on the shoulder and say I was doing the right thing for the right reason, whether that person didn't know, that Marine didn't know that he was impacting me more that day than I was impacting him when I helped him find a job, or that young soldier who wrote me and said we changed his life and he was feeling really down and now he doesn't doubt his own decision to serve. Those are messages too. But the thing that I think really helped me the most was after setting kind of a big vision and creating a really simple strategy for complex problems, I got things done and created a reputation for doing that. And in life, I think that's the most important thing. Is it's great to talk about things, but actions truly do speak louder than words. And it's a core value for Operation Gratitude. You don't see us going out publicly speaking from podiums, or you don't see me sitting on panels or attending big conferences. And that leadership is important because in today's day and age, when people are doing a lot of talking about how to solve problems or why to solve problems, we're out there doing it with action. And I think that's been a great thing to kind of guide me along the way as well.
I love that, getting things done. Again, a very simple concept, but it works. You know, talking and how are we going to do this and coming up with solutions, but actually executing, making a difference and building, like you said, you built that first program from scratch, that first nonprofit. You know how much work it takes, and you know why people probably don't do it. It takes a ton of work. You have to sacrifice a lot to get it done. Yeah. But once you're there, you see all the rewards and the impact you're having, and it doesn't just happen overnight, but it happens because you stay committed to getting things done.
Yeah, and I think I was really lucky along the way too, because I had influencers who constantly told me what my strengths were. And I think it's really important to listen to people who tell you what those strengths are. And that positive reinforcement sometimes is the tipping point. And I mean, again, this is a long time ago. I'm aging myself. It's more than 30 years ago in college when I had English professors who told me I was a good writer and constantly encouraged me to write and read and write and read. And that was later reinforced by a lot of leaders in the Marine Corps and asked me to write documents for our units or encouraged me to help other leaders in the organization write their own performance evaluations for the Marines who served under them. And, you know, those messages along the way are important too. I think, you know, I have 5 kids and some ranging from 25 all the way down to 12, and 3 of them talked about what they want to do with their lives in college and post-college careers. And you have discussions about where can they make the most money? Like what are the jobs and professions that are trending? And at the end of the day, for me, and what I can tell my kids is, you know, to follow your heart and do what makes you the happiest. And that's not cliche. I mean, I've lived that. And if you have passion and you're committed to something and you wake up every day with a sense of purpose, you'll always land in the right place. There's no other way of describing it better. And I think you do get messages along the way and you do get advice and you have to listen to it. And don't worry about the things that a lot of other people are telling you to worry about, because those things aren't as important as doing something that you love and that gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Using your strengths to do it. I want to take this full circle as we end our conversation and go back to one of the first things you said when we started talking was about your dad. And when he was talking to people in the Marines on the phone, you could see his face lighting up. And that's just such a, first of all, a testament to, so you're noticing it. And so any parent out there or leader, manager, you know, coworker, whatever it is in your everyday lives, for those of you that think people don't see what you're feeling or notice when you're happy, which is really the most important thing, not that you're happy, but that people can see what you're feeling. And if you're lit up and other people can see that, it's not an accident, it's happening naturally. And those are the things you need to pay close attention to. And the fact that your dad was feeling that, number one, great for him that he loved what he was doing, but his son could see it. And then you wanted to find that, and you thought, I'm going to find that in the Marine Corps. You weren't sure in the beginning when you joined, but eventually you just, I'm not certain. And then you kept looking for things to guide you, and then you get these messages. But at the end of the day, you went for that because you saw his face lighting up, and you wanted your face to be lighting up. You wanted, that was appealing to you. And parents just don't understand how important their role is. Everyone's watching you. Your kids are watching you. They're not watching what you say, they're watching what you do. And they're gonna take it in, and they're gonna digest those lessons and figure out what they want based on what they see that's good and bad. Like you said, you want to take the positive leadership messages, and then the negative ones, you would say, okay, I don't want to be like that, I want to be more like this. And then you're emulating those good things. It happens every day, subconsciously and consciously, inadvertently. But it's so,
it does. And
yeah.
And it came really full circle for me when my middle son, Carl, who's 23 now, and just coming at the end of his time, going back to school now, he probably noticed the same expressions on my face and the happy moments I had as a Marine when we were around friends.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. So it was so nice to talk to you. I love hearing your stories. If people want to help, I think you've already given some great ideas, like whether you're a volunteer and you can go somewhere to a place that you can actually volunteer and help build these care packages, or create your own donation drive. Also, they can make things that you guys donate to the first responders and military, right? Some of the other
Absolutely. So the easiest way to do this is go to our website at operationgratitude.com. And there's a button at the very top right that says Get Involved. Mm-hmm. And there's obviously a donate button as well. If they click the donate button, they could figure out a way to start their own fundraiser. It's really easy. And if they click the Get Involved button, it'll take them through a myriad of different hands-on opportunities that they can get involved with. And that could be in their communities where they live, right? Or it could actually be where they work too. They can actually take this to their employers and organize a service project with them as well. They're really interesting and thing that we're doing this year. And it started a couple of weeks ago. I was on a run and there was news of the 82nd Airborne deploying to Iraq. I'm sure you saw it, 4,000 soldiers who found out on New Year's Eve day that they were deploying. And a week later, they were away from their families. And I was on this run with my wife, and I got to thinking about 2020, and you make New Year's resolutions, you dream big, but I was watching all this happen on social media, people making comments, being divisive about the decision to send service members over there when they really should be focused on supporting those service members. Mm-hmm. And instead of joining the conversation, I decided to take action. So I started my own 2020 challenge, and now we call it the OG 2020 challenge. And I, at the ripe old age of 52, I'm going to run 2,020 miles in 2020 and started my own fundraiser and my personal commitment to raise enough funds to help Operation Gratitude send 2,020 care packages, one for every mile I run this year. And this is just a call to action to everyone who's listening to get on board to do that. And it, obviously I want them to support Operation Gratitude and our cause, but challenge themselves to give back, challenge themselves to do something good for someone who needs them. And that's what Operation Gratitude is all about every day. And we're reaching out to the 1 million people across the country who volunteer with us last year and saying, okay, what is your challenge? What is your OG 2020 challenge? What is your commitment? What's that going to be? What are you pledging to do? And getting them engaged to do more and asking their friends to join them, right? That's how you make a greater impact. And we're really excited about it. To give you kind of a demonstration of what Operation Gratitude is all about and what people should really be focused on with our organization. While all these organizations have been talking about, or other people out there have been talking about standing ready to support the service members deployed. Operation Gratitude has been taking action. And this weekend, we will be delivering 900 of our battalion buddies, which are our cuddly stuffed bears for children of deployed troops. We'll be delivering them on Saturday to some of the units that were impacted by the most recent deployments to the Middle East. That tells you, what we do as an organization and how people can be inspired to serve, because this is about, taking action and getting involved. So I would encourage them to go to our website, and if not, they can always just call me or email me. We answer our emails too.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you're right. Everyone, there's something you can do. You go to the website, you could donate, all of these ideas that are on there, you could have your own drive. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do that's going to make a difference? It doesn't have to be already laid out for you. You could have a new idea, just like you did with your running, 2020 miles for the
20
year.
miles. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. But it just goes to show you're already in it, and you could just stick with what you know already, which is already doing a ton of great things. And instead you're like, what else can I do to take action instead of, going and complaining or being divisive, like you said, getting, none of that energy makes a difference. It's taking action. It's doing something that's valuable. It's serving others. Yes. What can I do to serve? And everyone can serve in their own way, no matter what their life looks like. So I love that closing thought. That's the perfect way to end this. What can I do to serve? It looks different for everyone. And you don't have to be 52 to do it. You could be 12.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie, for having me. It was really awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And everyone visit Operation Gratitude and see some awesome pictures of people smiling. That's one thing I noticed on your website. It's just a bunch of great pictures, and it's more than that, but I definitely noticed that. And the volunteers look happier. I think almost even happier than the people they're serving. It's making such a difference, right? That's the best part.
Yeah, it is amazing. I love going and spending time with our volunteers and having them come up afterwards. And when they ask to do more, it always makes me feel great. So
I can't wait to go to an event this year. That's going to be on my take action too. I'd like to be in an event and see all this.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks again, Julie. Have a great one.
All right, you too. Take care. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person